to Stelbot Adventures. On today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you the top 5 tips you need to know when you are planning a road trip. Tip number 1, pick a destination. The first thing you need to do is figure out where you're going and how long you want to drive to get there. You want to decide if you're spreading out the trip over a couple of days or if you're just doing it in one shot. And if you are stretching it out for a couple of days, are you driving big chunks of time or are you going to stop and do things along the way? Our personal rule of thumb is if we're driving straight away is 8 hours maximum, and then we'll stop for the night. And depending on the driving day, we'll either stop en route to a Harvest Host location around 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or if we're driving towards the nighttime, we'll cracker dock and stop at a Cracker Barrel just overnight. Sometimes though, if we do need electricity and plug in, we will stop at a KOA just for the night. Tip number 2 is to have a checklist of things you want to do once you get to that destination itself. For example, if you're going to a national or a state park, perhaps that is your destination, and you want to separate the park into sections and tackle them in a couple of days. If you're going to a city or a town, you might want to look up the top 10 things to do in the area, find some unique things to do along the way, and plan out your day accordingly. Oh, and don't forget to check out the hours and days. You don't want to go somewhere and find out that the thing you wanted to do most is closed on the day that you're there. That's what he said. Hello. Tip number 3 for planning a road trip is to choose the campground where you want to stay. If you want to stay at a national or a state park, typically they are quieter and more secluded. However, keep in mind though, if you want to stay at a national park, you want to reserve your site at least 6 months in advance or as soon as it becomes available, because the national park sites do book up quickly. Also, if you are just looking to have some sort of plug-in, you might want to consider a membership to something. We have a membership to a KOA. We know what to expect, and we typically only stay at KOAs for a night or two. We know that we're going to get typically a site that's got water and electric. We don't always need sewer, but it's nice to be able to dump and refresh our tanks before we go to our next destination. If we're looking for something a little bit more different or off the beaten path, we will check out something called Campspot, which is an app that shows you a lot of mom and pop private campgrounds, a couple of chains that are on there as well, and just different campsites and what is available when in whatever area you're looking. For us, we typically stay away from the RV resorts, not only because they're more expensive, but also we don't feel like we use all of the amenities that are there. However, if we are planning to stay for a week or so at a particular location, or maybe 4 days or more, then we would consider doing that. We did that once when we went to the Keys, and we are going to be doing that in the near future. Now, once you have chosen your campground, you want to choose your campsite. Most of the time you are able to choose a particular site. For national and state parks, they are on a map. You could just click the reservation number and go from there. However, some campgrounds such as the KOA, you do not get to pick your site unless you give an extra fee to secure the site that you want. My suggestion would be to look at the campsite map and decide what type of site you need, whether you need full hookup, which means you have water, electric, sewer, and sometimes even cable. Sometimes you only need the water and electric if it's a really hot summer night, or sometimes you might just even don't need any kind of amenities whatsoever, just pull in and park for the night. Then the next thing you do is you look for available sites that are in that category itself. So sometimes they're color-coded, sometimes they're labeled on a map with shapes or like triangles or squares or something to let you know which sites are which. Our preference typically when we're looking at a map is something that has a water view or a lake view. Lakefront is best. However, it's not always going to be a lake or water feature at the park that you're at. So our next step would be finding a corner or a secluded area of the campground, and that is where we'll look for a site. Sometimes it is off in like the far top corner of a map or a little loop that's not very popular. And if there is a trail that's nearby, we like to be close to the trail. For us, we avoid the sites that are next to or near the playgrounds, the bathhouses, and the pool areas, mostly because they are going to be super noisy, super busy, especially during the daytime hours, and sometimes we just want to sit where it's kind of quiet. And for our last tip, now that you've decided your location, your destination, what you want to do there, which campground you're staying at, and what site you have chosen, you have to figure out what are you going to bring. Besides the typical clothing and cooking utensils and things like that, if you are going to be on a flat terrain, maybe you want to consider bringing bikes around with you. If you are near water, you may want to consider kayaks, paddle boards, or any other kind of flotation, non-motorized sports, and of course, clothing for the season and whatever activities you are doing. It is definitely important to bring layers because even though it may be hot during the daytime, sometimes at night it may be cool or it can rain while you are there. So you want to have rain gear as well. So again, our top 5 tips for planning a road trip is to first choose your destination. Second, make a checklist of the activities you want to do while you're there. 3, choose the campground that you're going to stay at. 4, choose your campsite. And 5, figure out what you're going to bring for that specific vacation. We hope you enjoyed these tips for planning your road trip. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below letting us know what you think or any other tips you would like to share. And we'll see you on the next adventure.